Hello again. Now, there have been protests after protests against gender-based violence, but it seems nothing has changed so far. Women continue to be murdered. Well, just recently, one woman was killed and chopped up by her boyfriend. The other, a 93-year-old granny, was raped and murdered. Now, the community of Athlone in Cape Town is saying enough is enough. Our reporter Ayesha Ismail is at a protest taking place in the area at the moment. Let's find out from her what is happening there right now. Ayesha, a very good afternoon to you. And I would imagine, yes, after hearing gory details like that, that the community would certainly be very afraid and would certainly be saying enough is enough. What have you been hearing? What are the stories you're hearing and the accounts from the community itself today?
Well, Yuveka, I'm here in Bellville South where this terrible incident took place. And what's so sad is that the 93-year-old great-grandmother, Cynthia Dobell, was murdered, raped and sodomized in her home. And we're standing here outside a house where there are scores of people from this Bellville South community coming out to say they are actually tired of saying enough is enough, and they're calling on government. They're also calling on society to also do something about the violence against women, the war on women. They're also saying, some of the women that I spoke to were saying they don't want to call it gender-based violence anymore because they're saying it's actually violence against women being perpetrated by men. But I'm now joined by a community activist, a woman who is involved in fighting for the rights for women. She's been doing this for a long time, Caroline Peters. Caroline, you were telling me that you went to speak to the family because they are obviously too distraught to speak to the media. Your comments on what happened?
So on the morning of the 1st of August, when we were supposed to be celebrating Women's Month, I mean every month, you know, on that day I said, how do we say Happy Women's Month to anybody when a 93-year-old woman is found raped and murdered in a home, in a place that's supposed to be safe, Aisha? I mean, 93, he's 25, so the perpetrator is a known person. He lived with Cynthia Dobell in the home, 25 years old. Raped, brutally murdered in a house, in a home, in her own space. This is on the first day of Women's Month in South Africa. What have we got to celebrate? Nothing, you know, and so we can continue. Femicide continues. We look at the case last week of Sipokazi Kobili, you know, 20-odd-year-old girl that also the perpetrator was known to her. They were out for the evening. They were together for the evening, socializing, hanging out. The next morning, the family found her, was called to where a body was found with her intestine. She was mutilated by a perpetrator known to her, someone that she spent the evening with. I mean, we know what femicide means, you know, well, femicide. And I always say, what is femicide? Something, or intimate partner violence. We can speak around all those things. Some people that was known, the perpetrator was known to both these women, 93-year-old, she's fragile. I mean, she's you know, when you get to 93, you should be taken care of, you know, like we were taken care of by our moms. I mean, this is a granny, a great-grandmother. I mean, and so 25-year-old. And what is justice? You know, what is justice for we know justice is not served, and I like that say that no justice, no peace. How's this family, you know? So we're gathering here today to say that we have had enough as the Cape Flats Women's Movement and the human rights defenders of Women's Legal Centre. We've got Ubuntu Rural Women, we've got women here from Hanover Park, women from Delft, women came as far as Paul and Stellenbosch from those areas and other areas across the Cape Flats to say that we've had enough. Enough is enough. Ons is gatvol, you know. And how do we? So we're here today to raise awareness in Bellville South, but also to support this family. You know, so many times we know, we just read about it, we see this, and so when I got to this house, I mean, if you look over there, the home is there, right there, where the blue house. That is where Ma Dobell lived. When I got there, you know, I wanted to cringe when I walked inside there. Just the sheer brutality was almost felt, the evilness, you know. Ma Dobell was short and frail, and he's tall, he's young, he's, you know, and just the brutality, the brutal nature of this act on the 1st of August, we should be here in Bellville South celebrating women. We should be here saying, where's the women? We know communities hold, it's women that hold communities together. I haven't had an opportunity to celebrate this month yet because I've been supporting this family, walking alongside the justice system, walking, just supporting them, holding their hands through this process. And so how do we celebrate? What have we got to celebrate? 2018, when we had the GBV National Summit, many promises was made. There's now the NSP, the National Strategic Plan, the GBV plan. Where's the money to resource this plan? So if we're serious about ending gender-based violence, it shouldn't just be a thing where we pay lip service to resource our work. Government should be out there resourcing our work. So many of us are community-based, community organizations, women-led organizations that assist these families in that. But where's the money to resource the plan of the NSP?
We're talking about every 3 hours a woman is murdered in South Africa. And these are only the known cases that, that we've become aware about. This great-grandmother, was murdered inside her home. You're calling on government to do more. But of course, society needs to also take responsibility and do something about it. And earlier I heard you saying that it starts in the home and it starts with young children to educate them about gender-based violence.
Definitely. Like I said earlier, Aisha, we often turn around and when my child is out of hand, I slap her. So what does it say to my child? When she steps out of line, then she deserves a slap. And that's when it starts. We start to educate, and yes, you're so right. It starts in our home, it starts in our communities. What do we do? Words. Often I teach my grandchildren words. Say words. Don't say those things. So the education around gender-based violence is going to start in our homes. It doesn't start out there in the classroom. It doesn't start. It is at home. But something that you said, I want to latch on to. So every 3, just think, many years ago there was a campaign, Mabupele, every 6 days, and then research was done and it was every 6 hours, and it's become more and more, so where is that? It's almost like the social fabric disintegration of that. But I also want to say this crisis has not just been here during lockdown. It was exacerbated during lockdown because women were locked in with perpetrators. But it's a continuous problem. It's been a problem. I've been in the sector for too many years. And so we have seen it in the 90s, we've seen it increase in 2000, and we see the increase. But where's the urgency? I like what Fatima Shabuddin, the message of support, she said, imagine 3 Boeings, women fall to 4 Boeings go down in a plane crash. And that's the amount of women killed per year. And if 1 Boeing is crashed, there's a disaster called, it's a national disaster, and action is taken. So we need drastic action taken.
Thank you so much for your time. And that was Caroline Peters representing the women from the Cape Flats, talking about the violence being perpetrated against women and the war on women, as she put it to me earlier.
And the desperation there is palpable there in her voice, Ayesha. And of course, just hearing the details, it is vile, it is sick. That is the society we live in, and it needs to change. Thanks very much, Ayesha Ismail there.